How many of you are considering buying another company? I know it's an odd question to come from a human resource show, but it's a valid one. And I've got some things today that I want you to think about. I'm talking about maybe even a merger. If you're merging with another company, there are a number of things that you should be thinking about. Your team should be looking at when considering a merger or acquisition. And again, this is a list that we don't talk about all the time because it's just not something that every company goes through. But I'm telling you, this list that I'm going to share with you today is one that you can even consider just with your own team and some of the practices and policies that you're exercising now. It's company texted me, or I guess emailed me here back in February. And they said, we're buying a location down in Florida. We're going to be buying one up here on the East Coast. We have one here in Cincinnati. But we just happen to think, is there anything that maybe you would like to have a comment on? Is there anything that our team should be thinking about? And I went, oh, gosh, absolutely. Because if anytime you're going out of state and you're purchasing a location in a different area, you have to remember those laws are going to be a bit different. And we have to wrap our arms around that to say, are we even prepared to deal with those? And their response to me when I even approached it was, oh, well, we don't have to worry about it. They have an office manager at each location. I'm sure everything's great. And I said, well, have you talked to them about this? Have you reviewed any of the HR practices with them? And they gave me that blank look like, no, but could you give us an idea of what we should have done? So that's what I want to do with you. And these are the things I wanted them to consider. The purchases are done. The acquisitions are done. So we're looking at two new locations in 2 new states. So here's the things I gave them. I wanted to know if they had reviewed the payroll practices. What payroll company were they using, or were they using a payroll company? And what type of payroll policies did they have in place? You see, prior to a purchase, prior to an acquisition, you have the right as the buyer to do an HR due diligence. You have the right to go in and ask a number of questions. You have the right to look at a number of forms or processes to determine what your level of risk is. Payroll is obviously going to be one of the highest levels of risk you could possibly get into, because are the individuals being paid correctly from a classification standpoint? And one of the things I asked them was, well, are they utilizing 1099s? And unfortunately, neither owner could answer that because they had not even thought to review any of this. They just assumed everybody was a W-2. Well, so that was one of the things they had to look at. And then we backed up and we're going to be looking at, are the individuals classified correctly? Because think about it. If they continue processes that are incorrect, if there are processes in their systems, no matter what payroll system it is, that are incorrect and have not been audited or reviewed, they will accept the risk and liability because they're allowing it to continue. I then asked, okay, do you understand there are entirely different labor law posters, entirely different state requirements for each of these locations? Do you even know if the labor law posters are hanging correctly in the current locations? I asked them about workers' compensation. Here in Ohio, we're state regulated. But for them to now have employees in these other states, they had to either open up separate accounts for each of them. Because again, we just bought them outright. We did not just absorb them. We bought them outright. And the state of Ohio can help them with that. But in other states, they won't. You have to buy a whole separate policy. So we had to look into that. And then what about any workers' comp issues? I was most interested in, do we have, because this is a very high risk industry that they're in, how many workers' comp claims do you have outstanding right now? What's the risk level? What's been the follow-up on any safety issues that the company has had? And then that just ties right back into employer liability. Have they extended their general liability insurance to now cover these new locations? You have to ask. You have to let the vendors that support you and protect you, you have to make them aware of any kind of changes like this. And that was one of the first things they did after they got this list, I'm sure. We checked on the handbooks. They didn't know if either location had handbooks. But the question was, are you going to blend the two together? Are you going to have them separate? And keep in mind, only certain policies can be blended because those states have separate policies that have to be established and identified. So Ohio cannot be held to Washington's, and Florida can't be held to Washington's or Ohio. It just doesn't work that way. I was asking if there were any unresolved employee issues, like do we have anybody on ADA? Do we have anybody out there who has sued the organization and you have a case that's unsettled? You know, again, you have, as the buyer, you have the right to ask these questions. In fact, you have a need to ask these questions. This is stuff that it's just not top on everybody's list. Everybody's worried about, are we going to get the loan? Do we have zoning? Are we going to have to fix the roof? Do we even want to hire all the employees, or can we reduce the staff? I get that there's a number of things that come first. But if you're going to buy or acquire a company, please understand, I'm just giving you the tip of the iceberg. That HR due diligence audit is very extensive and goes into so much more stuff. But I'll end this conversation with the questions of what was their restrictive covenants? Do the current employees, are they under restrictive covenants? And will they hold up? And is yours here in Ohio? Ours in Ohio is not relevant or acceptable to be used in Washington. And it may not be acceptable to use in Florida. So that means that if and when they hire any of those individuals, if they're going to ask for a non-compete or a restrictive covenant of any sort, they're going to have that ready. And you always remember, how I preach this: a legal document, a legal professional. You don't have your consultant or AI or Google. No, you have your attorney do it. So that needs to be done ahead of time. And they were a little bit behind the 8 ball on this one. I also asked them about their vehicles. What size of vehicles are you purchasing? Are they under the DOT? Are they under any state requirements or restrictions? You need to make sure that those are compliant with all the laws. And then, of course, training. And I know this sounds kind of crazy, but I wanted them to go and look for all the training logs. Have the employees been trained on harassment? Have the employees been trained on just basic safety? Because again, high risk industry. Have they had the safety videos? Do they know about bloodborne pathogens? Do they know proper lifting, slip, trip, and falls, how to properly use a ladder? It's common sense stuff, but unless you're doing this all the time, this stuff can slip between the cracks. And the problem is you can't afford to have all this slip between the cracks. If they had called me ahead of time, I would have recommended a thorough, full-blown HR due diligence audit. And some attorneys will offer it. Some attorneys won't. But I can tell you that a really, really good consultant would have one. I do. And if you need something like this, please don't hesitate. Do it far before you start talking money. Because, again, you need to know what you're dealing with. It may change the price. Or maybe not. Well, there you go. Before you make another purchase, ask the right questions. But then that's what we're here for. taking your questions. What would you like to hear? I do want to make a statement though. Please be careful when looking for the HR Academy. I currently have someone misusing that mark. And if you want the HR Academy, you need to come straight to me. I'm the only one legally allowed to use it. So hope to see you again. Please come back right here at the Human Resource.